So I know about half of you have probably already started furiously clicking forward, looking for the practice questions. However, please just hang on for a second because I have some important things to tell you that are going to help you use this video as effectively as possible. First, I'm putting in chapters. I'm going to try doing that with all my longer videos. If you look at the bottom of your video, there should be something that says intro, and if you click that, it should bring up a list of the different sections. So I'm going to piece it off so that you can jump ahead to the next practice question without having to skip around. 2, if you are just starting to learn how to identify the different tissue types, you probably don't want to start with this video. You also want to make sure that you even know what the possible answers are. If you can't think off the top of your head, what are all my types of epithelium? What are all my types of connective tissue? What are all the types of muscle? If you can't fill this in your head, you're probably not ready for this yet. Also, just a note, the school that I'm with only teaches 6 types of epithelium to start with. So if you're at a different school, your list of epithelium might be longer. These are all the possible answers for this specific video. Maybe you want to write this down, but you should be doing your best to recall the name without looking at that list. The way to think about a test like this, where you have to come up with the answer off the top of your head, on a test like this, there's only a limited number of correct answers. So it is a multiple choice test, except the multiple choice is in your head. So you really want to practice that skill of crossing off answers in your head. And make sure that you are taking the time to write or think the answer, because if I say the right answer and you're like, oh yeah, of course it's that, but you didn't actually think of it, you're fooling yourself into thinking you know it. Understanding the right answer and being able to come to the right answer on your own is totally different. Also, if you are a student at my school, make sure you can think of a function and location for all of these tissue types. And make sure you know all the additional details in your lab book, because they can ask you more about histology than just function and location. You should really know everything in that lab book. And also, don't forget to review your body regions, body cavities, all of those things, because I see so many students, they know their histology, but they get a 60 on their test because they didn't review anything besides the histology. Okay. If you managed to stay with me, congratulations on your excellent attention span. Now we can start looking at our practice questions. I'm going to give you 10 seconds for each, and then tell you the answer and how you should have known. This is areolar connective tissue. You should have known because you have 2 fiber types, collagen and elastic, going in all different directions. And you have many fibroblasts, which are all of those dark circles. So you should have known that this was cartilage because all of those empty spaces, those are lacunae. You see that in cartilage. And you know it's not hyaline cartilage because it doesn't look smooth in between the lacunae. It looks like fibers. And you know it's not fibrocartilage because if it were fibrocartilage, there would be many, many more fibers than lacunae. This is dense, regular, connective tissue. You should have known that because of all of these fibers going kind of in a wave in one direction. Some people will think that this is smooth muscle, but it is not smooth muscle because these cells, these fibroblasts, are sandwiched in between the fiber bundles. If this was smooth muscle is a living cell, so you wouldn't be seeing cells smushed in between the fibers, you would be seeing nuclei inside the fibers. This is simple cuboidal, which most people think is easy enough. Another easy one, adipose. So this is pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. And you can tell because of the cilia, the kind of hair-like structures facing the open space. Now, can you tell me what those cilia do? So cilia move substances. In this example, this is a trachea, so it would be moving mucus. Cilia found in the fallopian tube would move an egg. But just so you know, the cilia in the fallopian tube are not attached to pseudostratified. It's something different. This is fibrocartilage. You can tell because of the many cells that have kind of a clear zone around them, and the fact that it just looks like so many fibers. This is skeletal muscle, so you should have known it was muscle because of the light and dark band striations. You also see striations in cardiac muscle, but with cardiac muscle, you would also see darker intercalated discs. And the nuclei in cardiac are in the center of the cell rather than being pushed to the outside. You can usually always see the nuclei in cardiac, but sometimes in skeletal you will not see the nuclei. This is simple columnar, and the dead giveaway is these goblet cells. Now you can see goblet cells in ciliated pseudostratified, but you don't see cilia here, and also generally the goblet cells in ciliated pseudostratified don't tend to look as nice in my experience. This is smooth muscle. You should have known because, so you're seeing lots of fibers, But those fibers are actually living cells because the nuclei is located in the fiber strand instead of sandwiched in between. If you're still getting those mixed up, smooth muscle and dense regular, I will also have a link in the description that describes the difference between those two things. This is transitional epithelium. You should have known because there are multiple rows of cells and there's kind of a bubble-like top, which is what you see in transitional. This is also transitional epithelium. If you did not guess that because you thought I wouldn't put it twice in a row, that's an important lesson because you don't want to try to play head games with your professor. If you know it, you know it. This is another example of smooth muscle. And this is the dense regular connective tissue. Hopefully by now you're starting to see, like, yeah, there are little gaps in between the fibers, which is where the cells are. This is simple squamous epithelium. You should have known because even though you can't see the individual shape of the cells, it's so thin. What else could it be besides be simple squamous? This is skeletal muscle, which you should have known because of the light and dark bands, and also the fact that you're not seeing any nuclei. Remember I said sometimes that happens with skeletal muscle where you cannot see the nuclei. Cardiac muscle, on the other hand, you generally can always see the nuclei. So this is compact osseous tissue. Generally, this does not trip anybody up ever. But if you go to my school, make sure you know all the individual things you can identify in this tissue. I don't want to give away all the answers to your test because really the students that are very closely looking at all of their material and handouts from their professor are the ones that deserve to do the best. So I just advise you really read that handout. This is elastic connective tissue, which they don't generally ask at my school. There might be a professor or two that does, but you can tell that it is elastic connective tissue because the dark purple fibers, those are the elastic, and it's kind of laying over a bed of pink fibers, which is collagen. Wow, I put a lot of smooth muscle in here. It's probably subconsciously because I've had so many students come to me after their test crying because they put dense regular when it was smooth or vice versa. This is stratified squamous epithelium because you have many layers of flat pancake cells. This is cardiac. You should have known because you can still see the light and dark bands, just like in skeletal, but also these darker lines are intercalated discs. Those are only found in Okay, so pay attention. This is two different things I want you to identify. So over here is hyaline cartilage. You should have known because of the lacunae, and in between the lacunae looks very smooth and glassy, which you see in hyaline. And adipose, people usually don't have trouble with that. So this is blood. And anything that is not a red blood cell, you can just say it's a white blood cell. Except for these little purple flecks. Those little purple flecks would be platelets. But you probably don't have to know that if you're just learning the basic tissue types. This is fibrocartilage, and it looks pretty similar to that example I had shown you earlier. So these are all simple cuboidal. I would say this is probably more of an advanced thing. They wouldn't show you right away because these don't quite look like cubes, but we can guess that it's epithelium because it's lining something, and it's a sheet of cells lining something, and through the process of elimination, it's definitely not anything else. You kind of get left with simple cuboidal. So this example of simple squamous, I feel like you can really see those pancake cells if you look closely. You can see their flat little nuclei. And this looks a lot more like simple cuboidal than the last example. If you're in doubt, try to pay attention to the nuclei. If it's kind of got a circular nuclei, it's probably simple cuboidal. So once again, we have kind of bubbly cells, multiple layers of them. That's characteristic of transitional. You know it has to be an epithelium because it's facing an opening. And adipose, it's everywhere. So, ciliated pseudostratified columnar, this is not a great example of it. Maybe you knew it. If not, don't be too hard on yourself. That's hard. The simple cuboidal, I would think you should probably have been able to get. The hyaline cartilage, definitely, because those lacunae. I just kind of like this slide because it's a slice of a whole trachea, and it just shows you how you can see so many different things in one organ. So this is dense, irregular connective tissue because you have the pink collagen fibers and they're not running in a nice regular direction like you see in the regular. And this is just a super close-up of hyaline. Once again, cartilage because it has those lacunae with the chondrocytes inside. And in between, it's kind of smooth and glassy. Now, because we're close up, it doesn't look as smooth as usual, but you're definitely not seeing purple elastic fibers. All right, that was my last question. I hope this was helpful. If you're having trouble, don't be discouraged. Ask me any questions you want. Have a great day and have fun learning.